The mafia is not just a network of criminal organizations, it is a machine of power operating in the shadows. In Italy, the two most notorious forces, Sicilian Mafia, Cosa Nostra, and Ndrangheta, have controlled the economy, politics, and society for decades. Yet, there is a stark contrast between them. One is tightly organized, structured, but prone to collapse. The other is flexible, hidden, and nearly impossible to eradicate. One strangles the economy through violence, while the other injects money into the legal financial system to manipulate it from within. So, who is the true overlord of the underworld? Does the government genuinely want to eradicate the mafia? Or have they become an inseparable part of the system? What would you choose? Power in the open or power in the shadows? The mafia is not just a collection of street gangs running rampant, it is a highly structured organization, operating like a perfectly tuned machine. But if we look closely, we see an intriguing contrast between the Sicilian Mafia, Cosa Nostra, and Ndrangheta. One follows a rigid pyramid model, with a single leader making all the decisions, while the other resembles a decentralized network with no central authority, allowing it to endure across generations. And this very difference determines who is stronger and who is more vulnerable to collapse. Cosa Nostra represents the classic mafia archetype, structured with a strict hierarchy and military-like discipline. At the top stands the capo di tutti capi, the godfather, wielding absolute power and controlling all operations. Beneath him are the caporregime, regional bosses who oversee specific territories and command their soldiers to carry out extortion, assassinations, smuggling, and even the manipulation of construction contracts. The soldati, foot soldiers, are the enforcers, ready to dirty their hands for the organization. However, this structure has a critical flaw: it is too centralized. When a godfather is arrested or when the government intensifies its crackdown, the entire system can collapse like a house of cards. We saw this when Toto Riina, the most notorious mafia boss of Cosa Nostra, was captured in 1993. His downfall triggered a chain reaction. Members were arrested en masse, and the organization lost significant control. This is the fatal weakness of a system overly dependent on a single individual. Meanwhile, Ndrangheta operates without a supreme godfather. Instead, it is composed of independent families known as Ndrine, each functioning autonomously yet remaining loosely connected. There is no central authority, no singular leader the authorities can target. If one faction of Ndrangheta is dismantled, the others continue undisturbed, much like an underground root system spreading beneath the surface. So, what does this mean? It means that the government cannot take down the entire organization because there is no single head to cut off. If Cosa Nostra is like a snake with a large, vulnerable head, Ndrangheta is more like a swarm of smaller snakes. Killing one does nothing to stop the rest. This is why Ndrangheta has not only survived but has risen to become the most powerful criminal organization in Italy, while Cosa Nostra has weakened over time. Here's an interesting fact: while Cosa Nostra was once the face of the Italian mafia, immortalized in films like The Godfather and Goodfellas, today, Ndrangheta is the true dominant force. Strangely, few people recognize its name because it operates in secrecy, drawing less attention while amassing greater wealth and power than any other criminal group in Europe. We are witnessing a silent battle between two philosophies in the mafia world. One side believes in centralized power, strict discipline, and tight control, but is vulnerable when its leadership is dismantled. The other side embraces flexibility and decentralization, making it nearly immune to government crackdowns. So, the real question is, if you were to enter the criminal underworld, which model would you choose? Would you join an organization with order and structure but the constant risk of collapse if its leader falls? Or would you prefer to be part of a network with no single leader, making it nearly indestructible? This question has sparked debate among criminologists for years. Some argue that the discipline and hierarchy of Cosa Nostra ensure loyalty and stability, preventing betrayals within the ranks. Others believe that Ndrangheta's adaptable, family-based model is the ultimate survival strategy in an era where law enforcement is becoming more aggressive in dismantling organized crime. The Italian government may have succeeded in weakening Cosa Nostra, but it is almost powerless against Ndrangheta. Without a clear hierarchy, without a single godfather to target, authorities have no effective way to bring the entire organization down. This makes Ndrangheta a phantom force in the underworld, unseen, yet controlling everything from behind the scenes. But history teaches us that no criminal empire lasts forever. The Sicilian mafia was once untouchable, yet it declined. Can Ndrangheta maintain its dominance indefinitely? Or will another organization eventually rise to replace it? This is not just a story about the Italian mafia. It is a lesson for any organization that seeks to operate in the shadows. A criminal empire may be powerful, but without the ability to adapt, it will eventually crumble like so many before it. And that is why the underworld is constantly evolving, with new players emerging and endless power struggles unfolding. What do you think? Should a criminal organization have a strict leadership structure to maintain control? Or should it function as a flexible network to ensure long-term survival? If you were the government, how would you combat an organization like Ndrangheta, which has no central authority to target? Leave your thoughts, because this is just the beginning of the battle between Italy's two most powerful mafia factions. And in the next part, we will explore a crucial question. Does the mafia actually help the local economy thrive? Or does it simply drain it dry? The mafia is not just a criminal organization, it is an integral part of the economic system. No matter how much you hate or fear them, you cannot deny that the mafia has deeply embedded itself into the daily lives of people in Sicily, Calabria, and beyond. But the real question is, does the mafia actually create jobs and help local economies grow? Or is it merely a parasite that drains resources? First, let's talk about the Sicilian mafia, Cosa Nostra. One of its primary sources of income is extortion, pizzo. If you open a cafe, a restaurant, or a bakery in Sicily, chances are you will have to pay a monthly protection fee. No one wants to, but refusing means your business could be vandalized, your goods burned, or you could even be physically attacked. It sounds brutal, but for many, paying the mafia is easier than fighting them. However, this system stifles economic growth. Small businesses bear unnecessary costs, preventing them from expanding or improving their products. As a result, the local economy stagnates, businesses struggle, while the mafia grows richer. But here's something interesting. Cosa Nostra doesn't just take money, sometimes. It acts as an underground financial benefactor. When banks refuse loans and the government ignores people's struggles, the mafia becomes the only available lender. Need money to start a business? The mafia can help, but there's a catch. You will forever be in their debt. If you fail to repay, you know what happens next. This makes the mafia not just a criminal force but also a financial power that controls the very people it extorts. Now, let's look at Ndrangheta, a completely different story. Unlike Cosa Nostra, Ndrangheta does not suffocate the local economy with pizzo. Instead, it injects money into it in a way few would expect, controlling Europe's drug market and generating billions of euros annually. Ndrangheta must launder this massive wealth. So, it invests in real estate, hotels, supermarket chains, and transportation companies, legitimate businesses that serve as fronts to clean its drug money. This means that in Calabria, where Ndrangheta dominates, the economy appears more dynamic than in Sicily. Restaurants flourish, hotels rise, and more people find jobs. But here's the terrifying part. People don't even realize they're working for a criminal empire. A cashier in a Calabria supermarket might be receiving wages from a mafia-controlled company. A truck driver might be transporting goods for a business designed solely for money laundering. They don't see gangsters demanding protection fees. They don't witness bloody power struggles, but they are still part of the mafia's vast economic network without knowing it. So which organization is more dangerous? Cosa Nostra is visible, you know it's the mafia. You know it's extorting you. But Ndrangheta operates within the legal economy, making it impossible to distinguish legitimate businesses from criminal enterprises. If you unknowingly work for a mafia-run company, does that make you complicit? This is the heart of the debate. Some argue that the mafia provides stability, especially in regions where the government fails. When no one else offers jobs, the mafia does. When banks refuse loans, the mafia lends money. But on the other hand, when the mafia controls the economy, no one can succeed without going through them. You could build a thriving business, but if the mafia sees you making too much profit, they might suggest you share it with them. For years, the Italian government has tried to dismantle the mafia's grip on the economy. They have arrested countless crime bosses and frozen assets linked to mafia-run businesses. But the question remains, do they really want to eliminate the mafia entirely? If a large mafia-connected company is seized, hundreds of workers lose their jobs. If an underground financial network is destroyed, many people lose their only source of credit. Could it be that even the government relies on the mafia's existence to some extent? The mafia may be an economic parasite, but it may also be an inseparable part of the underground financial system. And that is why, despite all the government's crackdowns, the mafia endures, not necessarily because it is too powerful, but because society itself has given it a place. What do you think? If you were a small business owner, would you pay the mafia for protection to avoid trouble? If you unknowingly worked for a mafia-controlled company, should you be considered an accomplice? And if the government truly wanted to eradicate the mafia, would they be willing to face the economic consequences? This isn't just a battle between law enforcement and crime, it's a question of whether society actually wants the mafia to disappear. In the next part, we will explore another crucial issue. How does the mafia make money? Not all crime syndicates survive purely on illegal activities. Some have found ways to legitimize their operations and become true business empires. But which organization is better at this? Cosa Nostra or Ndrangheta? The mafia is no longer just about extortion rackets or drug trafficking in the shadows. It has evolved into a force that manipulates entire economic systems. But not all mafia organizations make money the same way. The Sicilian Mafia, Cosa Nostra, and Ndrangheta have taken two very different paths. One clings to traditional methods, while the other has stepped into the world of legitimate corporate empires. Let's start with Cosa Nostra. When people think of the Sicilian Mafia, they often picture gangsters collecting protection money from small businesses, controlling neighborhoods through brute force. But the reality is that Cosa Nostra once had its grip on Italy's economy, especially in construction and public contract bidding. By bribing officials and intimidating competitors, they secured lucrative government contracts, generating enormous wealth. But what happened? The Italian government cracked down on corruption, tightened regulations, and in recent years, Cosa Nostra has lost its dominance in this sector. So how did they adapt? They fell back on their old ways: extortion, racketeering, smuggling, theft, and money laundering. Some factions have even turned to human trafficking, profiting from smuggling illegal migrants into Europe. However, these methods are too blatant, making them easy targets for law enforcement. This is why Cosa Nostra has been steadily weakening. It struggles to evolve in an era where organized crime has become far more sophisticated. And that's where Ndrangheta comes in. While the Sicilian Mafia is still collecting protection money from local cafes, Ndrangheta has risen to become Europe's #1 drug cartel. Unlike Cosa Nostra, which often acted as a middleman, Ndrangheta controls the entire cocaine supply chain from South America to Europe. They don't buy from others, they own the product. This allows them to generate billions of euros annually while keeping a low profile. But they don't stop at drugs. Ndrangheta understands that relying solely on the narcotics trade is a risk. So what do? They launder their money more efficiently than any other criminal organization. Today, many businesses across Italy, Spain, Germany, and even Canada and Australia have received investment from Ndrangheta. They own hotel chains, restaurants, supermarkets, security firms, and transport companies, businesses that appear completely legitimate. Tax records and financial reports show nothing suspicious. Yet these enterprises serve as fronts for laundering billions in drug money and other illicit profits. This is what makes Ndrangheta truly terrifying. They no longer need violence to make money because their wealth has already penetrated the legal economy. A businessman may seek a loan from a bank, but he might also unknowingly borrow from an Ndrangheta investor. A construction company might win a government contract thanks to assistance from a financial institution, only to later realize that the money comes from the underworld. This raises a serious issue. If the government wants to dismantle Ndrangheta, it would have to shut down countless legitimate businesses. But are they willing to do that? If a supermarket chain is seized due to mafia ties, thousands of employees could lose their jobs. If a real estate corporation is shut down, the economy could take a major hit. This is why law enforcement can go after Cosa Nostra aggressively. But dealing with Ndrangheta is far more complicated. So if you were someone looking to enter the mafia world, which path would you choose? A group like Cosa Nostra, still relying on old-school methods, constantly at risk of being dismantled? Or an organization like Ndrangheta, which has left behind the bloody streets and entered the financial world, where a business suit and a legal contract can generate more wealth than an entire drug empire? The world of the mafia has changed. They are no longer just outlaws, they are now the ones running the system from within. And if they no longer need violence to generate revenue, does that mean they are slowly legitimizing their own existence? If a crime syndicate owns hundreds of legal businesses and creates tens of thousands of jobs, is it still considered a mafia? Think about that, and in the next part, we will answer the final question, between Cosa Nostra and Ndrangheta. Which is truly the most powerful criminal organization in Italy? And is there any force capable of taking them down in the future? The Sicilian Mafia, Cosa Nostra, once ruled as Italy's most dominant criminal force. But today, it is Ndrangheta that holds true power. The difference lies in adaptation. Cosa Nostra controlled politics, law enforcement, and the economy. But when the government cracked down, they lost everything. In contrast, Ndrangheta never flaunted its power, never left a trace. It controls Europe's drug trade, launders money through legitimate businesses, and infiltrates financial markets. With no central authority and no supreme godfather, law enforcement is nearly powerless against it. So, which organization is stronger? Cosa Nostra was once legendary. But Ndrangheta is both the present and the future. Unless a major shift occurs, the Sicilian Mafia will continue to fade, while Ndrangheta expands further. But is there another organization waiting for its chance to rise? The underworld is always evolving, and the king of today could be the fallen power of tomorrow. Two organizations, two different ways of operating, but only one true ruler. Cosa Nostra may be a legend, but Ndrangheta is the force that truly manipulates the present. They don't need guns or loud violence. Yet they control entire economies. Governments can arrest godfathers, but can they stop the flow of money and power? If the mafia were to disappear one day, would society truly be better? Or would another organization simply rise to take its place? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to uncover the hidden world of the underworld through perspectives never seen before.